Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hold On to Them podcast. I am your host, Erin, and today's topic is a little bit more serious than previous episodes. As you can tell by the title, today I am talking about coping with grief. And the reason why I wanted to record this episode was because I personally just went through a very big life change. If you're a listener of this podcast or you know me personally, you know that I was engaged. And my fiance proposed to me at the last benefit concert in Somerville. And I am currently no longer engaged. We broke up. He is the one that broke up with me, but we mutually decided to part ways after I processed the initial decision that he made. And I'll get into all that. And I am not here to talk about the breakup or what led to that. What I want to talk about is from the second I heard the words come out of his mouth to how I got to where I am right now. Because at this very moment, I am in a very good place and I am healing and I am hopeful for the future and I am very confident about who I am as a person. But it took me time to get here. So I wanted to talk about that whole process because I know a lot of people listening can relate to the emotions and feelings that I went through. So I'll start with the day he broke up with me. So to not get into too much detail, he flat out said, I do not want to get married anymore. And I had planned the entire wedding. Everything was booked from the venue, the flowers, the DJ, my hair and makeup. I had just bought my dress about a month prior. And our date wasn't until spring of 2025, so we still had time left. But him saying those words to me shook me to my core. It was like a knife went in my heart and I wasn't expecting it. And the first immediate thought that went in my head, well, the first thing I said to him was, "Are you joking?" And after he told me he wasn't, and I could tell he wasn't joking, the first immediate thought that went into my head was, I need to call my mom because I'm scared of the feelings I'm feeling right now are overwhelming and powerful, and I need to talk about them with someone. I didn't want to talk about it with him. So I called my mom. I told her what just happened. She was also completely shocked and was like, "Are you serious? What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?" And I just said, I was hysterically crying, and I said, I don't know what's happening. I just know that he doesn't want to marry me anymore, and I'm scared of how I feel right now because obviously at this point, it had only been maybe 5 minutes. I hadn't processed what was happening. My mind was starting to try to process it. And my emotions were telling me that my life was over. And that how was I going to go forward? I couldn't even think about that. I was like, this is the end. My entire life that I thought I was going to have is not happening. It's not going to happen. I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't know how I can move forward. So I believe we hung up because I said, like, I'm going to go talk talk to him some more, because really we didn't talk. He just told me that it was over, and I just was immediately like, I need to not be here. So we both cried, and he had told me that he made this decision a month ago. So for an entire month, he had been processing that he was ready to end this relationship. And he had an entire month of doing that, whereas I had a couple seconds to process it. And we talked for a little bit, and then I just left. I took my stuff. I stayed at my friend's house. I didn't eat or sleep that night. Like, tried to go to bed maybe around 12 or 1 after I talked to my friends for most of the night, and I could not fall asleep. My mind was just full of thoughts, and my heart was full of feelings, and I could not function at a normal level, which is understandable. So the next morning, I called my mom and I told her that I was going to come spend the weekend with her. I talked to my coworkers and my boss, and I was able to get someone to cover my shifts for the weekend. So I went and stayed with my mom because I didn't know what else to do. That was what my gut was telling me was the right thing for me to do. So that's what I did. And I started eating a little bit, and I started sleeping a little bit. And at this point, I was in the depression and anger stages, and probably a little bit of denial too. I was like, there's no way this is actually going to happen. Like, he's going to change his mind. I came back home. I had to repack my bag because I had only grabbed enough stuff for a short period of time. So I was able to talk to him again, and that's kind of what I needed to be able to process what was happening. It helped me process communicating with him and trying to understand where his head was at and what had led him to this decision. So I basically moved in with my friend, and the first 2 weeks were the hardest because I was trying to reevaluate my life and figure out how I was going to move forward, because everything I thought my future was going to be was gone. So I had to cancel everything for the wedding. I had to figure out where I was going to live because we lived together. And I had to accept that he was no longer going to be my best friend. He wasn't going to be the person that I went to for everything. He wasn't going to be my partner in life. So I have asked all of my podcast guests what they do when they are feeling down and they want to help themselves get out of it. And I did, I believe, everything that every single one of my guests has suggested. So Alex had said to go outside and do something positive. Closing your eyes, taking deep breaths. Check. Nikki had said, distract yourself, go for a walk, listen to TV, podcast, clear your head, and clean. I did that. Heather said, listen to music. Did that. Tyler said, go outside, eat comfort food, and listen to music. Did that. Sadie said, journaling and opening up to everybody around you. Did that. Margie said, go for a walk, move her body, clear her head, and journaling. Did that. And Johnny had said, reach out to friends and do something creative to let out your emotions. Did that. So I did not take that advice from everybody lightly. I I did all those things, and that truly helped me. I remember going for a walk and I had a panic attack because of just all the emotions I was feeling. And the only thing that helped me was I took deep breaths and I focused on my breathing, and then I was listening to music and I was able to calm myself down. I changed the song. I think the song was probably something about like a breakup, and I was like, no, I can't listen to that. So I changed the song to something upbeat, and I was able to finish my walk. I focused my breathing. I was okay. Reaching out to friends was the biggest thing for me. Talking on the phone when I felt alone, because it's okay to sit in your emotions and feel sad and upset. But when I did that for too long, I felt alone and I felt like I had no one. And my brain was basically playing tricks on me because I had an entire support system behind me, and I just needed to reach out to one of them until somebody answered and was able to talk to me. So that was a huge thing for me, because removing the main part of my life and the person that I went to for everything was a challenge, because you can't just remove someone from your life like easily. That doesn't work like that. So putting in place the friends that I could reach out to instead of him was a huge thing that helped me. I also texted my therapist like the day after we broke up, and I said I need an appointment as soon as possible. And I started seeing her weekly, and that was also a huge thing that helped me. I would wake up, and that was when I felt the most depressed. And so the first thing I thought to myself is how sad I was, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to talk to anybody, but I would force myself to go for a walk. I said, okay, you can change your clothes, put on your sneakers, and go for a walk around the neighborhood. That's easy. Go ahead and do that. So I did. And then when I would come back to my friend's house after I went for a walk, I was motivated to then do a 20-minute workout. So then I would go and I would do that. And after I worked out, that motivated me for the rest of the day. And my anxiety and my depression were subdued. And I felt like I was in a better headspace, and it was easier for me to go about the rest of my day. I remember one day I was going to the grocery store, because that's something you have to do. And some guy had his shopping cart like almost in the middle of the road. He was like looking at the plants that were in front of the store. And I was looking to my left to see where there were parking spaces open, and I didn't see his cart, and I like tapped it with my car. And after I did, he stared at me with his mouth open like I had just hit him with his cart. He was nowhere near his cart. The cart didn't bump into him. It was just a mistake, an accident. So I pulled into a parking spot, got out of my car as he was still staring at me with his mouth open. And I said, "Sir, are you okay?" And he started like freaking out at me. And he was like, "Why are you driving so fast? Like, you need to watch where you're going, blah, blah, blah." And he wasn't like yelling at the top of his lungs. And it honestly wasn't that aggressive of tone, but it was enough that it set me off. And I had a panic attack, and I started crying, because it was just, my emotions were so bubbled up to the surface that one tiny thing just set me off. And I was like, okay, I'm not going grocery shopping today. I cannot pull myself together and go and do this task alone, because I just can't handle it today. And that's okay. When you are dealing with grief and you feel an overwhelming emotion an overwhelming negative emotion, such as anger or depression, and you feel like the only thing you can do is just be, that is okay. Do not be afraid to sit in your pain, because that is part of grieving. You have to be able to go through this to make it to the other side. And I know that it feels like you're not going to get there, and it feels like there's a huge part of your heart that's missing, and you do not know how you're going to make it to the other side. It feels impossible. And you just want to skip over the pain to get to the good stuff. I started feeling like I was getting back to myself, and I was feeling a little bit better. And then I had to pack up my stuff in this house, and it was a lot, and it was very emotional. And I made the decision to move out. I didn't want to live here anymore, because this was the place that we built a home together. And I knew that I would not be able to move on if I stayed here. I needed to completely distance myself from him and the place that we lived to be able to move forward. But packing all my stuff up and looking at all the memories, it was a really hard week for me that week. But once that was done and I had my stuff out, I didn't have a reason to come back to the house. So that made it easier for me. I continued to spend time with friends, and I am an introvert, and it is really hard for me to meet new people. But I knew that to help myself move forward, I needed to be put into uncomfortable situations. And this is just something I decided for me personally. Not everybody might feel this way, and everybody handles grief and depression and anxiety differently. But for me, I wanted to push myself where I was uncomfortable, because I felt the only way I could grow from this was to feel uncomfortable and push through the things that I was afraid of. So for the 4th of July, I spent it with my friend and her friends that I hadn't met before. And when we were in the car going there, I started having a panic attack. And I was afraid to tell her, because I didn't want to feel like I let her down, or that I was ruining her day, or I didn't even want anyone to know that how bad I was struggling. But I did decide to tell her, and she said, "We don't have to do this. I can drive us back home right now. We don't have to be here. I'm here for you. I want to do what you want to do." And I think just hearing her say that made me feel better. And I decided to stay. I said, "No, I want to do this. I want to push past the pain and the uncomfortable parts to keep moving forward." So we stayed. I got through it. I met her friends. I had a good time. And then I went home later that day. And then we watched the fireworks later that night. And I was okay. I reached out to a friend a couple days later, and I had asked her if she was around that Saturday. And she told me, "No, I'm not. I'm hanging out with a bunch of my friends and going to this hockey tournament." And I was like, "Oh, I want to come. I want to hang out with you, and I want to meet new people. I want to put myself out there." So I did, and I met new people, made new friends, and I felt like I was getting back to my old self. I felt like I was getting stronger and more independent, and I stopped reaching out to my ex. I knew I could do this on my own, and I had gone through the depression phase and the bargaining and the anger and the denial, and I was finally at acceptance. And I knew that this was the right thing for me, that what we had together was not what was meant for me. This was not meant to be the rest of my life. And looking back at it now, I can see the things that were wrong, and I can see the things that I was settling for, and I don't want to settle. I want to be with a person that wants to be with me, and that we fit and we can communicate and we can trust each other. And I don't want to feel like I'm settling with that person. I want them to give me everything that I'm looking for. And I believe that that should be everybody's goal, to be with someone that they're not settling for, that they feel like brings everything to the table that they need or that they want. And that has also been helping me move forward, knowing that what's meant for me is not going to miss me. If it's meant for me, it will happen. And this was not meant for me. And I am so hopeful for the future and finding the guy of my dreams that is going to bring everything that I need in a man and a husband. I am hopeful that I'm going to find my husband, and it was not who I was with before. He is still out there. And as difficult as this period of my life has been, it has helped me realize what I want and what I need, and has helped me realize how strong I am, and how when I'm at the lowest of the low and I feel as if I can't move forward, I can, because I just accomplished it. I just went from as low as I could feel, and I came out on top. I survived it. I'm better for it. I'm capable of difficult, challenging things. I can do it. And if you're listening, I want you to know that you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. You can survive the things that feel like you can't. You can survive the hard days, the difficult days, because they will pass and you will get through it. Lean on your friends and family. Do the things that take you out of your pain. It's okay to sit with your pain and feel it, but also know that you don't have to sit with it every second of every day. You can go and do something fun. Go hang out with your friends. Do something physical. Take your mind off of the pain to focus on the joy too, because that's part of life. You can't experience joy if you don't experience the pain and sadness. So that is my episode for today. And I'm sorry that this topic was a little dark and deep and intensely emotional, but I wanted to share my story because I know I'm not alone in facing these dark, difficult days and this powerful grief that just completely envelops you. And I wanted to share this because I don't want anyone else to feel alone in their pain. And I want them to know that you can get through it and you will make it to the other side. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I promise next week's episode is going to be really exciting. It is with Drew Seeley, who was at the September benefit concert in Somerville, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear it. So next week is going to be a positive, uplifting episode after this dark, intense one. But thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Our website is holdontildawn.com, and our email is holdontildawn@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at holdontildawn and on Facebook at Hold On Till Dawn Benefit Concert. See you next time.